We are beginning a new series lecture, Contra Structural Racism. That means I'm against the idea uh, put forth called structural racism. Now, this is perhaps dangerous for me to do. So I have the Book of Common Prayer. My mother bought this for me when I was in high school from England. Little did she know that I would become an Episcopalian. But this is the old original one with hymns, ancient and modern. It's a wonderful little book, very small print. And I just want to read to you when we baptize infants. This is what the priest says. He says, "Dost thou," talking to the parents and the godparents, "dost thou, in the name of this child, renounce the devil and all of his works?" So I thought I probably should begin this lecture series by renouncing. I renounce, or maybe denounce. I renounce and denounce the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Brotherhood, Nazis, and anyone who carries swastikas, flags, and armbands, the Order of the Cyclops, the alt-right, specifically Richard Spencer. I denounce them all. I don't, by the way, denounce Charles Murray. I'm going to draw a line there, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming lecture. So let me just show you right away. This is from an organization called the Aspen Institute, and I thought it was a very good definition of structural racism, which I'm going to disagree with. So I wanted to get a good definition here. I'll let you read this as I read it out loud. Structural racism is not something that a few people or institutions choose to practice. Instead, it has been a feature of the social, economic, and political system in which we all exist. That's in the past. It is a system in which public policies, institutional practices, cultural representations, and other norms work in various, often reinforcing ways to perpetuate racial group inequity. So that's what the structural racism is. And I'm going to be disagreeing with that in upcoming lectures. Let me try, though, and we'll read this again in another lecture if you didn't get that, but let me make sure we understand a few things. First thing, I will not use the term people of color. I believe that the African American experience is so different from Hispanics and Asians and Muslims from Middle Eastern countries. It's night and day difference. So to lump all these people as people of color, I think, is wrong. So we're only going to be talking about African Americans, which I will call black. So, what can we agree about? And if you don't agree with what I'm about to say, you're probably one of those racist people, those white supremacists. Here's what I think we all should agree, all American citizens should agree, that it's a bad thing that black and white folk are so different in wealth and education and being victims of crimes and being incarcerated. All these lists of things, it's bad. There shouldn't be such a gap. There shouldn't be such a gap because, and I'm going to say something that perhaps sounds a bit insensitive. I don't mean it to be terribly insensitive. I don't mind the gap between white people and Hispanics. And I don't mind the gap because Hispanics are immigrants, or a great deal of them are immigrants, and when you come to America, it's a hard life. It was hard for the Irish American. It was hard for everyone. Hispanic immigrants, as they go from first generation to second generation to third generation, do better economically and educationally. This is true. So I don't feel as bad, but I do feel bad because African Americans were enslaved, for crying out loud, from the 1600s to 1865. And even after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, for 100 years, African Americans, specifically in the South, are second-class citizens, are segregated, are not allowed to live in places, are forced under this Jim Crowism, and that doesn't end legally until 1964, 1965. So, as an American citizen, I feel that this is bad, and I feel this needs to be rectified. I hope all of you agree with that. I don't know how we're going to do this, so I'll do another series on reparations sometime. But we know this is bad. The question is, why is this happening? We need to describe the reality before we can figure out a solution to this problem. And I just happen to believe that structural racism is just not a good description of what's going on. So that's enough for today. That's almost 7 minutes. We'll continue this later.